In the 70 years since Godzilla first stomped across the silver screen, he has undergone a number of transformations while fighting some of the most powerful and intimidating kaiju ever created. Godzilla's creature design is simple, but it has endured for a reason. His glowing dorsal spikes, long tail, and fiery blue atomic breath are all iconic in the annals of movie history. From the original 1954 tokusatsu design to Legendary's massive MonsterVerse CGI design, Godzilla has retained the same basic shape, albeit with some extremely cool modifications. Many of Godzilla's foes, however, are anything but basic. Ever since his first tussle with on-again/off-again ally Anguirus in 1955's Godzilla Raids Again, Big G has fought a cavalcade of killer kaiju. While some of the designs are simply enlarged versions of animals or insects, looking at you, Kumanga and Kamakuras, other creature designs are far more elaborate. For the most part, the more complex a kaiju's design is, the deadlier it is, and that's certainly the case for most of the classic monsters Godzilla has fought listed here. Godzilla, Evolved. The evolved form of Godzilla debuted in Godzilla x Kong, The New Empire. When Godzilla re-emerged from the sea in Legendary's 2014 franchise starter Godzilla, his design was applauded. While he had clearly been upgraded in size and detail from Toho's tokusatsu designs, the new version of Goji still captured the most important elements of what make Godzilla so cool. As the franchise has continued, Godzilla has found ways to power himself up, even though his overall design hasn't changed much. That changed in 2024's Godzilla x Kong, The New Empire, during which Godzilla truly evolved into a new form in both power level and appearance. After killing the Titan Tiamat, Godzilla absorbed some of her DNA and a massive amount of energy from her lair to become Evolved Godzilla, a much more athletic and powerful version of the radioactive lizard. Godzilla's typically bottom-heavy design was replaced by thinner legs and a leaner torso, which allows him to run just as fast as Kong. Evolved Godzilla also has much more sharp and exaggerated dorsal spikes, and of course his blue glow has been replaced with a more powerful pink atomic energy. Godzilla's evolution into a much more agile monster was a refreshing change of pace from his typical design, yet he didn't lose the majestic aura that should accompany the king of the monsters. Whether the MonsterVerse has jumped the shark or not can be debated, but there is no denying that Evolved Godzilla is a truly cool variation. Batra. The dark reflection of Mothra debuted in Godzilla vs. Mothra. Batra flying in Godzilla vs. Mothra. Godzilla has had plenty of evil versions of himself over the years, not unlike a comic book superhero. However, 1992's Godzilla vs. Mothra introduced the dark version of the Queen of the Monsters in Batra, a monster created by the Earth itself as a defender. Like Mothra, Batra is a massive moth, and is shown in two forms, a larval form and an adult imago form. The larval Batra is plenty badass in its own right, as he is capable of firing prism beams out of his eyes and the horn that sits atop his head. However, his adult form has a truly awesome design. Cool as it is seeing an evil version of Mothra, the design for Batra goes above and beyond with its sharp edges, clawed feet, mouth full of spikes, and red and yellow wing pattern. Batra may not be the strongest monster that Godzilla has ever put down, but he's one of the coolest to be put on screen.